Welcome to the next edition of the BriefingsDirect podcast series. I'm Dana Gardner, Principal Analyst at Inter Arbor Solutions, your host and moderator. As more businesses move more of their IT services to the cloud, reducing complexity and making sure that security needs are met throughout the process are now top of mind. For a UK managed services provider, finding the right mix of security strength and ease of use has become a priority. Stay with us now as we learn how Northstar Services Ltd. In Bristol-area England adopted Bitdefender Cloud Security for managed service providers to both improve the security of their end users and to make managing security easier than ever. Here to discuss the role of the latest Bitdefender security technology in making MSPs more like security services providers is John Williams, Managing Director at Northstar Services Ltd. Welcome, John.
Hello.
We're glad to have you, John. What are some of the top trends that are driving the need for a managed service provider organization like Northstar to provide even better security? What's driving the need?
Well, we used to get lots of questions regarding stability for computers. So they would break fairly regularly. We do hardware changes. People were interested in what software we were going to load, what the next version of this, that, and the other was. But those discussions have changed a great deal, and now everybody's talking about security in one form or another.
You know, it seems like whenever you change something, whether it's configuration or the type of software you're using, or maybe the type of service provider like a cloud, it leaves gaps or potential gaps that security issues can be a problem from. Is that the case? And why do you have to be doubly sure when you make a change that the security follows you through that?
Yeah, I mean, we used to install a lot of antivirus software on centralized servers. So that was very common. We'd set up a big database and install security software on there. We deploy it to the endpoints from those servers. And, you know, it worked fairly well. It was quite a lot of work to maintain it. But now we're supporting people who are so much more mobile. And some customers that we support, they really are just one person or a group of people who are all out and about on the road. They don't go to the office. They're out there servicing their customers and they have their laptop, but they want the same level of security as they would have got if they were in a big corporate network. So we've defined security products that gives us visibility of what's happening. It means that we have to know that they're up to date. And we've got to manage those wherever they're at on whatever device that they've got, all in one place.
And I suppose these end users are looking to you to fill that gap, even though they're the ones that are on the front lines, that you're the ones that are going to call up when things don't go right.
Yeah, absolutely. And we've got lots of customers who don't have on-site IT resource. They're not experts. They are quite often small businesses, hundreds of them, and hundreds of users. And they just want to be able to call us, find out what's going on when they see a problem on their computer. And we've got to know whether that's a security issue or whether it's just an application that's broken. But they're very concerned that we've got that visibility at all times. So our engineers need to be able to access that easily and address it as soon as that call comes in.
All right. Well, before we learn about your journey to solving some of those issues, tell us about Northstar. How long have you been around, and what's the mainstay of your business?
I've been running Northstar for over 20 years now. Started it in January 99. I've been working in IT as an IT support engineer in large organizations for a few years, but really wanted to get involved in looking after small businesses. And I liked that because you get that direct feedback. People appreciate it when you make an effort. They want to tell you that you did a good job, and they want to know that someone's really paying attention to them. So it was, a joy to be able to get that up and going. And we've got a great team here now. And that's the thing that really gets me out of bed in the morning now, is working with our team to look after our customers.
And for those customers, even the smaller businesses, moving to the cloud has become more and more the norm lately. How are your smaller organizations managing that? Sometimes with the crossover or the hybrid period between having both on-premises local devices as well as cloud services can be a little daunting. Is that something you're helping them with?
Yeah, absolutely. And we often see circumstances where they want to move one set of systems to the cloud before they want to move everything to the cloud. So they generally are on a trend where they want to get rid of in-house servers, especially for the smaller end of the market, customers who are smaller. But they have often got legacy systems that they can't just easily port off the service that they're running on. So they might have been custom written, or they're older versions that they can't afford to upgrade at this point. So we end up supporting partly in the cloud and partly on-premise. And some customers, that's their strategy. They take a particular workload, a database, for example, or some graphics software that they use. That runs brilliantly on servers in their offices, but they then want to outsource other parts, other applications. So when we're looking at security, we need software that's going to be able to work across those different scenarios. It can't just be one or the other. No good if it's just on premise, no good if it's just in the cloud. It has to be able to do all of that, all from one console, because that's what we're supporting.
And John, what were your requirements when you were looking for the best security to accomplish this set of requirements? What did you look for in particular, and how did your journey end?
You could talk about the things being easy to manage, things giving you visibility, good reporting, and all those things are important, and we assessed all of those. But really the bottom line is, does it pick up infections? Is it able to keep those units secure and safe? And when infections happen, does it clean them up or stop them in their tracks quickly? And I mean, that has to be the number one thing, because, whatever other savings you might make in looking after security, the fact that something that's trying to do something bad is blocked, I mean, that has to be number one. Stopping it in its tracks and getting it off that unit as quickly as possible, because the sooner it's stopped, the sooner it's off, the less damage it can do, and the less time the engineers have to spend rebuilding units when they've been killed by viruses or malware. And we used to do quite a lot of that. Previous antivirus software, security software that we've used, there was a constant stream of cleaning up after infections. And although it would detect them and alert us, very often the damage was already done. And so we've got a long period of, repairing that at best, but very often just rebuilding the whole operating system, which is really inconvenient for customers. And again, coming back to the small businesses, they don't have spare PCs hanging around that they can just get out of the cupboard and carry on. Very often that's the most vital bit of kit that they own. And every moment it's out of action, that's directly affecting their bottom line. So detecting detections and stopping them in their tracks, that was our number one criteria when we were looking.
And I suppose in the best of all worlds, the end user not even being aware that they were infected, not even being aware that it was remediated, having that not have to go through the process of rebuilding is a win-win for everyone. Automation is also top of mind these days. What you've been able to do with Bitdefender Cloud Security for MSPs, has it been able to accomplish some of that invisibility to the end user, and also perhaps helping you with automation behind the scenes?
Yeah, I mean, the software is easy to deploy, but what it boils down to is that we just don't get as many issues to have to automate the resolution for them. So automation is important, and things we do are useful, but really the number of issues that we have to deal with is so few that even if we were to 100% automate that, it wouldn't make a massive saving because it's not interrupting us very much. Because it's stopping malware in its tracks and cleaning it up, most of the time we're just seeing that it's done it, rather than us having to automate a script to do some removal or some changes or that kind of thing. It's kind of already done it. I mean, I suppose that is automated if you think about it, yeah.
Okay. How long has it been? And do you have some metrics to qualify? You said it's been a dramatic difference between the past and now with the number of issues to deal with. Can you qualify that? And how long has it been that you've been using Bitdefender?
Oh, goodness, I'm not sure I can remember that off the top of my head. Probably, I would imagine 3 or 4 years now, I think we've used Bitdefender. And when we look at the number of tickets that we used to get in for antivirus problems on people's laptops and PCs, they've just dropped to such a low level now. It's a tiny proportion. I don't think it's even coming up on a graph. We record the type of ticket that comes in. Is it a printer issue? Is it a hardware issue? Well, the antivirus removal ticket count, I don't think it's featuring high enough to appear on the graph, because it's just Bitdefender's just dealing with those infections and fixing them without us having to get on there and rebuild PCs because of those problems.
Well, it's not always a zero sum of it's either infected or it's not. Other issues arise when the process by which you defend a PC or a Mac or an end device can have a degradation effect. And users are complaining sometimes about slow apps, especially during certain times when the software is running. Has there been an improvement in terms of the impact of the safety net when it comes to your use of Bitdefender Cloud Security for MSPs?
Yeah, it's much lighter on the operating system than the previous software that we were using, and we were often getting calls from customers to say that their units were running slowly, and we'd look at it and have to do work to try to make the unit run faster just because of the heavy load it was having to do in order to run the security software. So, I mean, that's the exact opposite of what you want. You know, you're putting this software on there so that they get a better experience. In other words, they're not getting infected as often, but then you're slowing down their work every day. I mean, that's not a great trade-off. You know, security is vital, but if it's so has such a big impact on them that they're losing time by just having it on there, then that's not working out very well. Whereas now it's light enough on the operating system that it just isn't an issue. That, you know, we don't get customers saying, since you put the antivirus on, my laptop seems to be slower. In fact, usually it's the opposite.
All right, I'd like to return to this idea of the migration, seeing as it's such a big deal now, where people moving across this continuum of on-premises, hybrid, and cloud. And to be able to move and do that while security is maintained, it's sort of like changing the wings on an airplane and keeping it flying at the same time. What is it about the way that Bitdefender has architected its solution that helps you as a service provider guide people through that transition, but not lose a sense of security and a higher risk posture as a result of that transition?
Yeah, I think it's because we're managing all of the antivirus licenses in the cloud, whether they're on-premise or out, inside an office, whether they're using those endpoints inside the office or whether they're out and about, and whether or not it's a cloud service, a server running in cloud services, or whether it's running on-premise. We're just putting the same software on there and managing it in the same console. So it means that we can not worry about that security piece. We know that just whatever they change to, whatever they're coming from, we can put the same software on, manage it in the same place, and we're happy.
And as a service provider, I'm sure that the amount of man hours that you have to apply to different solutions directly affects your bottom line. Is there something about the administration of all of this across your many users that's been an improvement? The Gravity Zone Cloud Management Console, for example, has that allowed you to perhaps do more with less when it comes to your internal resources? Yeah,
the way that I gauge that is that it's the amount of the engineers want to do an efficient job. That's what they like. They want to get to the root of problems and fix them quickly. So any piece of software that we use, any tool that doesn't work efficiently for them, I get a long list of complaints on a regular basis. All engineers want to do is they want to fix things fast, and because that's what the customer wants, and they're working on their behalf. So, you know, before, I would have constant complaints about the fact that it was difficult to manage and deploy. You couldn't get the software off any of the units after if it needed to be decommissioned, and it's just troublesome. But now I don't get any complaints over it. The staff are nothing but complimentary about the software, and that just makes me happy because I know that they are able to work with it, which means that they're doing the job that they want to do, which is helping our customers and keeping them happy. So yeah, it's much better.
All right. How about looking to the future a little bit? Is there something that you're interested in seeing more of, perhaps around encryption or the use of machine learning to give you more analytics as to what's going on? What would you like to see out of your security infrastructure and services from the cloud in the next couple of years?
Okay, well, one thing that customers are talking to us about quite a bit now is data security. So they are thinking more about the time when they're going to have to report the fact that they've been attacked. And with no software on earth is perfect. And the whole point of security is that the threat continually evolves. So at the point where you've had a breach of some kind, you want to understand what's happened. And so having information back from the security software that helps you to understand how the breach happened and what the extent of it was, that's becoming really important to customers. Because when they submit those reports, as legally they have to do, they want to have accurate information to just be able to just say we had an infection and that's it. They don't know exactly what the extent of it was, whether any data was accessed or infected or encrypted. Without having that detail, that's a problem. So the more information that we can gain from security software about the extent, that's going to be more important going forward.
Right. So issues around auditing and compliance, regulatory issues, data sovereignty and placement, those are all, of course, really big now. Anything else come to mind about what you'd like to see from the technology side?
Yeah, I think that so automation's important, and that AI side of it, where the software itself learns about what's happening and can give you an idea of when it spots something that's out of the ordinary, that will be more useful as time goes on, I think.
All right. Last question, John. What would you advise other MSPs to be thinking about when it comes to being a little bit better in their posture for security, a better security services provider in addition to managed services provider? What advice do you have for them?
So I think the thing is to have that, don't be afraid of providing security services. You've got to lead that conversation, I think. That's what customers want to know. They want to know that you have thought about it and that's at the very forefront of your mind. So we go and meet our customers regularly, and we usually have a standard agenda that we use. And the first item on the agenda is security. And that journey for each customer is different. They're starting from different places. So we like to talk to them about where they are and what's the next thing that they can do to make sure that they're doing everything they can to protect the data that they have got, that they've gathered from their customers, and to look after the data that they've got about their staff and to keep their service running. So we put that at the top of the agenda for every meeting. Now, so that's the idea, a great way of behaving as a service provider. But of course, in order to do that, to deliver that, you've got to have the right tools. So you've then got to say, okay, if I'm going to be in that role to help people with their security, I've got to have those tools in place. Because if they're complicated and difficult to use and hard to implement, then that's gonna make it a horrible thing to have to do. But if it's simple and it gives you that great visibility, then you're going to be able to deliver a service that customers will really want to buy.
Well, very good. I'm afraid we'll have to leave it there. You've been listening to a sponsored BriefingsDirect discussion on how reducing complexity and making sure security needs are met throughout a process of cloud adoption is top of mind for managed service providers. And we've learned how Northstar Services in Bristol-area England has adopted Bitdefender Cloud Security for MSPs to both improve their security of the end user, but also make managing security easier than ever. So please join me in thanking our guest. We've been here with John Williams, Managing Director at Northstar Services Ltd. Thank you so much, John.
Pleasure.
I'm Dana Gardner, Principal Analyst at Inter Arbor Solutions, your host for this ongoing series of BriefingsDirect discussions. And a big thank you to our sponsor, Bitdefender, for supporting these presentations. We also want to thank our audience for joining. Please pass this on to your IT community and do come back next time.